All right, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of our annual Heated Sports podcast. We're back here with another episode for you guys, so thank you guys for tuning in. Again, my name's Justin. I have Zach here with me again. Say what's up, Zach.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
So we have another episode in store here for you. We have a lot of good topics coming in, so we're just going to kind of get things rolling and just take it away. So right now, we're going to keep it rolling. We're going to start off with the heated question. We got a lot of questions submitted here again this week, so thank you guys for submitting those questions for us. It's the start of the MLB season, so it's rightfully so that a lot of the questions had to do with the MLB season starting out here. Pretty much every question we got was pertaining to Philadelphia Phillies, so I mean that's kind of understandable. Obviously, a lot of people in the area are going to be Phillies fans. I'm excited to talk about it and address a few of these questions here, so we'll kind of just get rolling with everything. So the first question that we have here was, are the Phillies a legitimate postseason threat? A pretty general question, a pretty important one though if you think about it, and honestly, I really do think that the Phillies are going to be a postseason team. We'll get into our actual postseason picks here a little later, but spoiler alert, I do have the Philadelphia Phillies in my postseason come September and October. I really think that they have the lineup in place, especially in a weaker National League. I think the Phillies they'll get by pretty easily. I think they'll handle the division. I think they'll get a lot of things taken care of that they need to get into the playoffs. What do you think, man? Do you agree with me here? Do you see the Phillies in the playoffs here coming up?
I agree with you, but to a certain standpoint, because I think the Cubs are kind of back up, like a really good year again, come back, and the Braves are really scary. They have Acuna over there and Ozzy's Albies, whatever.
Yeah.
They just signed him to an extension in the contract, so he's a powerhouse. And Washington, I still have winning the East.
Yeah,
just because
we'll get into that a little bit too.
They're just used to it, so I think
I'll say they have more experience coming down the stretch of the season. Some playoff experience, obviously, this Phillies team really doesn't have, so that's something to think of too. But yeah, we'll just get off to the next Phillies question here. So kind of piggybacking off of the first question was another one we got submitted. Do the Phillies have the best lineup in the National League? And that's kind of tough to pinpoint. I mean, I think offensively, if you're looking at just the offense and the batting order, I definitely think that top to bottom, they do have one of the best lineups in baseball. On the other side of things, on the defensive side, on the pitching side, the bullpen side, I definitely don't think so. I think that's probably their biggest thing they needed to improve on as far as their bullpen help. Some of their defensive play, I think, could come back to hurt them towards down the stretch of the season and everything. But top to bottom, they obviously have a lot of weapons in place. All right, guys, sorry about that, but we're back. We had a few technical difficulties, but we got everything taken care of now. So we'll just kind of get back talking about the Phillies and what we think here going forward for them. Kind of like I was saying, I definitely think top to bottom in the batting order, they really have a lot of good pieces in place. 4 out of their top 5 in their regular batting order are new additions, with McCutchen and Real Muto, and obviously Bryce Harper there too. They have a pretty stacked lineup in terms of offensive power. On the defensive side, though, is kind of yet to be seen. I mean, obviously, like we were saying, their outfield is pretty stacked as far as defensive, playing defensively. It's kind of up in the air right now. This is the brand new team. They're up, like I said, there's a lot of new pieces. They're playing together for the first time. I'm kind of gonna want to wait and see what they do kind of down the stretch. That baseball is going to be a long season, so we'll kind of just have to wait and see. The pitching, I think, definitely needs a lot more help, especially in the bullpen, like we saw in their first loss. The bullpen definitely needs some work.
Yep.
But so it's kind of a hit or miss. It's definitely two sides. We'll kind of have to see some moves maybe if they make any going forward and kind of just see how they build off of a struggling bullpen to start the season. But what do you think, dude? Do you agree with me at all? Am I crazy on saying that about the bullpen? Or
the bullpen definitely needs work, but don't sleep on Gene Segura. He's an all-star shortstop, and Real Muto's a great catcher.
Yeah, so that's one of the other top additions they had. Yeah,
Michael Franco's an average fielder for third baseman, and the only person we need to worry about is Rhys Hoskins. He had a critical error against the game.
I was gonna say if he can just catch a regular toss there, the game's
if he
pretty
just
much over.
Gets clicking, he'll be good. There'll be a good defensive outfield and fielding and everything. But definitely pitching is a weak spot for the Phillies. Definitely.
I mean, they have Nolan Arrieta, obviously. I mean, they're definitely a solid 1-2 punch. I mean, going from there, it's going to be interesting. I'm still going to preach. I think they should get Dallas Keuchel. I'm still waiting for that guy to pick a team.
He still hasn't signed,
Yeah, I mean, once his asking price goes down, I think Philly should swoop in there in a heartbeat if they want to. They have the money to do it if they want to, so I'm going to keep preaching that into existence as long as I possibly can.
Zach Eflin's great.
Yeah, I didn't know much about Eflin, but he completely dominated the Nationals. He had 9 strikeouts, I think, 10 strikeouts.
Last season he was up and down in the minors, but he's a pretty good pitcher. I think he's developed pretty well.
I was impressed. I'm excited to. Yeah, I'm gonna try to actually watch his next start because I actually missed that game, but I definitely want to at least watch him in action, and hopefully he can keep it consistent, like you said.
Definitely,
if he was more up and down.
That's the problem.
Try to keep it consistent basis. Try to keep going, and he might even move up in the rotation if it comes down to that once we get to a more critical point late in the season.
Yeah, he's 4 right now.
Yeah. So another Phillies question we got was just simply who's going to hit the most home runs this year. I mean, if you look at it, looking at the lineup, they have 3 possible candidates of big home run hitters. I'm looking at Bryce Harper, Rhys Hoskins, and then Realmuto. I mean, so you have the 3 of them. I think would be at least the top ones considered to like lead the team in home runs this year. They're all batting one after another, obviously 2 or 3, 4, and 5. So it's kind of interesting to see who's going to get walked more, who's going to get more at bats. So I mean, Bryce is obviously so far has been walked a lot. Yeah. Rhys Hoskins and Realmuto have been taking advantage of that pretty well, getting a lot of critical base hits, and even Rhys Hoskins hitting that grand slam there in the opening game right after they signed, or they intentionally walked Bryce Harper.
I think he'll hit the most. Definitely.
Who, Hoskins?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably who I would look at too. It's probably going to be either Harper or Hoskins. Realmuto, I think, will get his fair share, but when you have those other 2 on his team, I don't think he's going to go off or like go crazy or anything. He's more of like an hitting for average, getting a lot of like base hits, doubles, that kind of stuff. So we'll kind of have to wait and see. Harper's obviously his biggest thing is his power, so he can hit home runs to any part of the field on any given day. So I'll say him and Hoskins will probably go just head to head, kind of see down the stretch of the season, but definitely between those 2, I'd probably lean towards Hoskins a little bit too, kind of like what we both just said, with just Harper getting walked more too. Exactly. I mean, Hoskins probably going to get more at bats once the season's over with, so that's definitely something to look at. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but the last question we got submitted was kind of specific to the pitching staff, and it was just, do the Phillies currently have the pitching depth to actually make a postseason run?
Nope.
No.
I don't think so either.
Definitely not. I mean, like I said, I have them making the playoffs, but that's definitely going to be their biggest like Achilles heel when they get to the playoffs. They definitely need some work. They need to make some additions, obviously, like towards the All-Star break, like towards like the trade deadline. I could definitely see them making like some actual moves, like making some just real like kind of game changing moves, essentially filling those last couple holes that they have to actually make a good playoff push. If it actually happens, we'll kind of have to wait and see. But Phillies pretty much make it known that they're going to spend, what was the quote, a dumb amount of money, or like spend a lot of money and like be stupid about it. So I mean, so they could really kind of just keep building off that mentality, and it really wouldn't surprise me at all if they ended up doing that. So like I said, we'll just kind of have to wait and see here. So that's all we have for like the heated questions segment. That's going to be all the questions that we got submitted that we're going to touch on. Like we've mentioned in previous episodes, the heated questions segment is pretty much just going to be a weekly segment where we want to hear from you guys. So you guys are always able to DM us on social media. You can just comment on this video if you want. If you're watching the video and you have some stuff you'd want to hear us talk about next week, just let us know. We can we'll analyze all the questions we get submitted, and we'll pick out a select few that we want to touch on in the podcast. So we really appreciate you guys that submitted those questions this week. We're always open to talk about the Phillies, and I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about them a lot more for sure. So we'll get rolling here with the next topic, and that's kind of just going to be opening up the MLB season. So the 2 of us really made our playoff predictions, essentially. So with the baseball season starting up, we made our own picks on who we think is going to come out on top in the divisions. Some way too early World Series picks. So I'll hand it over to Zach here. We'll start with the American League. So man, who do you got winning the divisions here? Let's see some picks.
American League East, I have the New York Yankees, and that's just because they have Judge and Stanton, and they have the power. Like they led the league in home runs last year, so like they consistently just hit home runs. For the AL West, I have the Houston Astros again, just because the Mariners are starting off hot, but they'll just fall off. I think they'll be like an average team at the end of the year.
That's usually how it works. For some reason, the Mariners always start off pretty good, and then like come the All-Star break, they just completely fall off. They really won't be able to keep up.
Yeah, and then the Central, I have the Indians, because I think the AL Central is the weakest division in baseball, just because the White Sox really don't do anything, and Twins, they're 4-1, but like
the Twins are always like a sleeper team. They really don't have any like big name guys, but they can kind of compete. But definitely nothing too crazy.
And the Royals they've been awful since they won the World Series. They've been in the bottom of the standings. And then the National League East, you want to go over to your
who do you got? Do you have wild card teams? Who do you the wild card picks?
I have Red Sox and Oakland Athletics.
Athletics, yeah. No, that was one of the teams I was looking at a little bit too. I would say, I mean, my AL teams are actually going to be pretty similar. I also have the Yankees, Indians, and Astros. Another obvious pick with the first wild card is being the Red Sox then, because you have the Red Sox and Yankees, arguably the 2 biggest teams, 2 most powered teams in the AL. So one of them's going to win the division, and probably more than likely the other one's going to get a wild card spot, and most likely that first top wild card spot.
It's like last year.
I was going to say, pretty much the same as last year. We both kind of have it backwards, though. I think the Yankees will take that next step. They have a lot of injuries right now, but once they get those pieces back, I definitely think the Yankees will take that next step and take it to another level, essentially. The Red Sox aren't starting off very hot either, so we'll kind of have to wait and see how that plays out, but I really don't have any worry right now.
Definitely
they'll turn it around. We'll see how it plays out, but that's what I have right now. My second wild card spot, I actually have the Tampa Bay Rays. So I have another team coming out of the AL East. I think the Rays are going to surprise a lot of people this year.
I love the Rays.
So you have Snell, former Cy Young winner. I think he's definitely going to compete for it again this year. They have a lot of really good young pieces in place, so I definitely think the Rays could surprise a lot of people. Take that second wild card spot, and yeah, there'll be a new face in the playoffs, and I'd be excited to watch them. Especially if it isn't that one game take all wild card game. You have Snell up there; they could definitely compete with anybody. So it'll be really cool to watch if that happens, obviously. So yeah, that's the first half. We got through the American League here. Go ahead, dude. What do you got for the National League?
I have Nationals winning the NL East, just like I said earlier. Because
feel free to roast him as much as you guys want.
They know how to win that division,
and then they know how to lose right as soon as the playoffs start. They always find a way to lose in the first round.
But I think they'll win the East regardless.
Yeah.
And then I have the Dodgers winning the West, with Colorado kind of sort of falling off.
Competing a little bit.
Yeah,
though, or?
Not as much as last year.
Yeah,
definitely not. And then I have the Chicago Cubs winning the Central again, just because again, it's like the national situation. They know how to win that division. They know how it feels to be on top. And then for the wild card, I have the Phillies and then the St. Louis Cardinals. And
okay, so at least you have the Phillies in the playoffs. That's good to see. Yeah.
I think the Cardinals are going to be a team to watch out for, just because of Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah.
He had 4 home runs against the Brewers, and I don't have the Brewers in the playoffs at all, actually.
Really?
Even with Christian Yelich, I mean, he's playing great, but I don't know if they can keep up to what they did last year.
Mm-hmm. That's tough, man. Sleeping on my Brewers. I've been a believer in the Brewers. I love Christian Yelich, so we'll have to see. I do have them in my playoff, making the playoffs here. So my National League picks, I have the Phillies winning that division, winning the NL East. I have the Brewers winning the Central, which is kind of surprising because them and the Cubs I kind of have being 50-50. Similar to last year, they were both kind of right on top of each other. So I do have the Brewers kind of pulling it out there. I think kind of contrary to what you said, I have them taking maybe the next step versus taking a step back.
I don't know the pitching either. Pitching is, I don't know.
Their pitching's underrated, I think. They don't have a lot of big names, but their bullpen's been consistent since last year. And I think once you come down the stretch of the season, the bullpen's huge. Like, if you can get a couple innings out of your starter and then just go straight to your dominant bullpen, that's how you're going to win games down the stretch. So I believe in the Brewers here a little bit going forward. In the West, I have the Dodgers, same as you. I really don't see anyone competing in that division with the Dodgers, kind of really how the division's panned out for the last couple years now. I think the Dodgers are one of the top teams in the National League. Their lineup's still stacked, especially when Kershaw comes back.
Yeah.
So that division's going to be pretty one-sided. I mean, the Diamondbacks, they might compete for a little bit. They always fall off.
I don't think so.
I think the Rockies will be a team to look out for. It wouldn't surprise me if they maybe competed with the Dodgers for a while. Yeah. They usually, kind of like you said, they usually do end up falling off. But, I mean, honestly, they could surprise some people. They still have some pieces, so they can maybe make a push for it. But I still have the Dodgers taking it there. My 2 wildcard teams, I have the Cubs, so I still have the Cubs making the playoffs. Like I said, I think they'll probably be right behind the Brewers, so that'll probably be a division to look out for. The Cubs, their lineup's pretty stacked, but for some reason they have a lot of big name guys, but they haven't been performing up to their standards. I don't think. Chris Bryant's really taken a big step back, at least in my opinion. Recently. Yeah. I mean, they have a lot of old names. They have Cole Hamels and Yu Darvish in their rotation. I mean, Lester's still a top pitcher, I think, but he definitely has some questionable outings throughout the season. He's getting up there in age. So they have a good pitching staff on paper. It's just a matter of if they'll actually be able to perform up to their standards and come playoff time, too, if they can avoid some upsets and everything. My wild card 2 is a bit of a shocker, and this is one that I'm kind of excited to talk about. I have the New York Mets making the playoffs as the second wild card spot. I have no clue if this is actually going to happen, but I'm a believer in the Mets this year. That's why I love baseball, because there's always at least a couple teams that surprise everybody. They go from being completely irrelevant the previous year. They made a lot of good moves in the offseason, especially with Robinson Cano, getting him on the roster. Then the next year they completely blow everybody away. They have a crazy run, similar to what the Braves did last year. I mean, no one expected the Braves to do anything, and they ended up winning the division last year.
I wasn't happy about that either.
Yeah. So I think the Mets can surprise a lot of people. If they'll actually make the playoffs, it's yet to be seen. But similar to what I said with the American League, if you have Jacob deGrom, who I think right now is the best pitcher in baseball, in that wild card game, the Mets can surprise a lot of people and maybe make a run going forward. So that's kind of what I got. That's who I have. Any other teams that maybe were just out of the playoffs, like playoff hunt, that you still wanted to talk about at all, or you think you touched on everything?
No, I think you touched on the Rays, and I think they're a great team. So yeah, I think they have it all together.
Yeah, for sure, man.
That's all I have.
What's your World Series, real quick? What do you think?
Oh man, the Cubs and Yankees.
Cubs and Yankees.
Yeah.
I think I have the Astros taking it all this year. Astros
Really?
they're a consistent team. I think they'll make it to the World Series. I think they'll beat them. Right now, I was kind of torn between the Brewers and the Dodgers. I'm a believer in the Brewers, man, so I think they can make a run, but the Dodgers might end up taking the fall 3 years in a row. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Again, a lot of our way too early predictions, but that's kind of who we have going forward. Let us know who you think, if you think we're crazy with picking some of the teams that we did, but we'll kind of just leave it at that. So the next topic we're going to talk about here a little bit is Kevin Durant, and a lot of reports coming out earlier this week that he is not going to be staying in Golden State. He's going to be moving on from the Warriors, and obviously it's not official. We haven't heard anything from him, and we clearly won't until the season's over with, but it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a pretty big shakeup in the West. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that's a bunch of bull, or do you think like KD's actually gone like 100%?
Yeah, he's definitely leaving.
Yeah.
He, off of Colin Cowherd's show, he said, the one guy said he doesn't get the praise that he wants. Like, it's still Curry's team.
That's so arrogant, I think.
No, yeah,
like,
it's needy and arrogant, I agree. But, like, he's going to go to New York with Zion. And it's still going to be... I don't think it's a smart move.
You're sold on that? So sold on the Knicks?
Yeah, I think it'll be dumb, though, because it'll be Zion's team. Zion's a younger star, and he's amazing. It's Zion.
The hype's it's gonna be Zion's town wherever he goes, for sure.
So, like, if Durant goes to the Knicks with him, it's going to be not his team again, so...
Yeah, he's still going to be, like, that second, like, backup piece, kind of like what Steph is, pretty much. Like, well, him and Steph in Golden State. He's going to be behind Steph whenever he's in Golden State, but... I really don't think the West is going to change too much. Assuming that Klay comes back, which I really think that he will, the Warriors are going to be still the top team to beat. I mean, it'll make it a little more competitive. Obviously, if you're taking away one of the top players in the league from the team, they're not going to be as good. But that team won 70-plus games, like consecutive seasons before KD even got there. So assuming that most of that same team is still intact after he's gone, I don't think the Warriors are gonna have an issue with him leaving.
Not with Boogie, though. DeMarcus Cousins is...
I don't think he'll be here after this year either.
I hope not.
I really don't.
For the Warriors' sake, I really hope not.
I really don't think so. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I mean, I really don't see them overpaying Boogie or paying Boogie what he would want.
Definitely not.
He clearly took a pay cut to sign the 1-year deal with him this year, but he's really not going to do that again, so I don't think the Warriors will pay him. I think they're going to give Klay pretty much whatever he wants. Max, or at least close to it, that it's going to get Klay to stay. Because I think he's a little bit more loyal when it comes to like staying with the team that drafted him, staying with the dynasty that is the Golden State Warriors right now compared to KD. KD got his money, he got his rings, which is what he basically wanted going to Golden State. So now he's going to go where the money is, go where he thinks the limelight's going to be in New York, all on him. So I kind of agree with you there. That's most likely going to be his destination if he decides to ultimately leave. But we'll kind of have to wait and see. If there's other teams in the mix that are willing to pay him whatever money he wants, or like the Supermax or a max deal, he could consider them too, but we really won't know more details until we actually get into the off season. But
I think KD is just the opposite version of LeBron.
Yeah,
like LeBron started off in 2 teams in the East and went to the West, and KD's gone to 2 teams in the West. He's gonna go to the East.
Come to the East and try to run the East.
He's chasing LeBron, and he always will.
Yeah, that's always been the speculation. He's always been the number 2 guy at his very peak. He's been the number 2 guy in the league. And never really gonna surpass LeBron. He's a little salty about it. I don't think would come out and admit that, but it's pretty clear. So
not with his ego.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of news here surrounding LeBron and the Lakers. We were kind of touching on LeBron there a little bit with the KD talk. Overall, the dumpster fire that is the Lakers right now. What do you think going forward, dude? What do you got about LeBron and the Lakers?
I think it was a dumb, stupid decision. Like
for LeBron,
to sign to Lakers. He said it was like a basketball move, but it's clearly all business.
No, it was 100% a business.
He has a show
move,
now. I feel like
if he wanted to win basketball games, he would have signed with Philly before going down.
I feel like he's just showing like right now that his interests aren't in basketball as much as like his life after basketball.
Yeah, because I mean he'll stay in LA most likely after he retires and everything.
His sons are like getting settled in school, so like he's definitely like making it seem like he's not the same LeBron that we saw in Cleveland or Miami.
I'll preach it till the day I die. I preach a lot of the Dallas Keuchel stuff for the Phillies, but I think the Lakers should just ship up and trade LeBron. Trade him to the Knicks, get Zion. It's not going to happen, but if they were smart and Magic was smart, that's what you got to do, to be honest. No, they're clearly not smart at all. But, if that's what you want to do, time to restart the franchise, essentially. Keep your young core. Get Zion, arguably the biggest young prospect in recent history. So get him to start your franchise instead of an aging LeBron. LeBron has maybe 3 years left. Go out and fix your mistake, because clearly this was a mistake and it's not working. And it's not going to turn around in a season either. No matter who they sign, it's not going to completely turn around and be picture perfect next season. So fix the mistake, put out the dumpster fire, ship LeBron to New York, get Zion to start building. So I mean that's where I'm at. That's where some people probably would agree, but I mean it's LeBron, so you really can't trade LeBron.
So say LeBron and the Lakers, like they do trade him to New York. What does KD do? Like, what do you think he'll do then? Do you stay and go to Golden State?
That's a good question. I mean, hey, if you get KD first, go ahead and ship LeBron there. I mean, they're both going to be happy, and that'll be a crazy team regardless.
I don't know.
KD's decision would probably come after, so maybe he would end up deciding to stay or going to another team maybe that has like equal interest in him. I have
Brooklyn.
no idea. Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Honestly, hey, go to New York, stay in the East anyway. Yeah, just
go against
the other New York team. Yeah, sure. They'd have a lot more head-to-head matchups that way too. So. So the last thing here we're going to talk about before we get our guest over here, we're just going to recap some Final Four stuff, and we have March Madness coming up. Actually, tonight when this airs, we'll have the championship airing. So we obviously, as we're recording this, don't know who's going to be in the championship. We're recording this before the Final Four even starts. So we have Virginia going against Auburn, and then we have Texas Tech going against Michigan State. So what do you got there, man? Who do you think's going to take it? Any like surprises? I mean, there's a couple surprises in the Final Four. But what do you think, dude?
I think Texas Tech wins it all.
Really?
Honestly, they have a great defense, and Jarrett Culver is proven himself to be a great offensive guard. So, and the key matchup for their Final Four matchup is Culver and Cassius Winston from Michigan State. They're exactly the same player. They like average
I've seen a couple of those comparisons.
Yeah, they have like the same field goal percentage. It's great. And then I think Virginia wins it against Auburn, but like Auburn will definitely like give a fight just because they shoot in the perimeter. And it'll test Virginia's defense on the perimeter. They're usually like a paint defense kind of team, but it would definitely be interesting. I'm excited to see it. I'm
literally going to go the exact opposite of you.
Really?
I think it's going to be Michigan State and Auburn. And Auburn is completely blowing everybody away, especially me, because I had them losing in like the Sweet 16, I think it was. And they go ahead and beat Kansas, which isn't like a core Kansas team anymore, but it's still Kansas, one of the biggest names in college basketball. Beats the 1 seed in pretty dominating fashion in North Carolina, and then goes ahead and beats Kentucky to get into the Final Four. I think Auburn's riding high, and if we're being honest, I'm not that hype on Virginia. I mean, they've had pretty much like several close games, not an offensive team at all. So I mean, they're all preaching defense. I still think Auburn will put up points on them, and I think that's why Auburn's going to take that one. I picked Michigan State to beat Duke, not to toot my own horn at all, but I had that one right. Unfortunately, that's my only Final Four pick that I got right. But I had Michigan State in there. I think they'll be able to take care of business against Texas Tech. I think that'll be the better game of the two. But I think Michigan State can definitely take it and take it all the way. I mean, I think if they get out of the Final Four, I think they have a good shot to beat Auburn.
If they get out of the Final Four, they can. But if Texas Tech, it's like
that'll be like the biggest competition. Yeah.
And if Texas Tech gets out, they're winning too. I think.
Yeah.
I think they're a solid team.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Underrated for sure.
I'll say they surprised me a little bit too. I had them in my Elite Eight. I didn't have them beating Gonzaga, but I had them going pretty far. So I definitely expected them to compete pretty well in the tournament. So we'll have to wait and see. Honestly, with our predictions, one of us is going to be right, at least to a certain extent, once this goes live on Monday. So we'll kind of have to see how it all plays out and how the championship plays out then tonight when this airs. So, So that's kind of where we're at right now. So guys, we're going to take a short break. We're going to get our special guest in here for today. We have James Sullivan coming in to join us. We're going to talk some Duke basketball coming up short against Michigan State. We'll talk a lot more about LeBron, and he's a Celtics fan, so we'll have to roast him for a little bit about being a Celtics fan. So we'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, we're back. We have James Sullivan here with us as a special guest. So, man, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, my name's James. I'm a sophomore here at Millersville. I'm on the men's basketball team. Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
of course, man. Thanks for reaching out to us and showing some interest in the podcast. So, a little bit that we've talked, we know you're a diehard Duke fan, so that's kind of where we're going to start. I need to get your reaction, man. Were you worried about the Michigan State matchup at all? Like, what was your reaction after it ended up not going your way? What happened?
I mean, after seeing them barely squeak out 2 wins in the games prior to Michigan State, I was definitely worried. Yeah. And they just couldn't pull out a third win by the skin of their teeth. So I was hurt, but Tom Izzo is a cool coach. I have a lot of respect for him. Yeah. I wasn't too upset with him winning and then moving on.
I'll say he's one of my favorite coaches in college basketball. He's consistent every year. He's always going to get the best out of his players while also obviously competing every single year too. So
what do you think hurt Duke? Like in the long run?
Free throw shooting.
Yeah, definitely.
RJ missed that free throw. I think free throw shooting and then their lack of ability to shoot the three.
I was going to say the 3-point ball was the biggest struggle too, which is kind of the main reason why I ended up like choosing Michigan State and like the upset, like with the one bracket that I made. Just Yeah, it's just, especially now how the game's changing, you got to make threes at some point, and Duke just, for some reason, they just really can't make threes as much as they should have been.
Yeah, they honestly should have lost
Yeah,
before they faced Michigan State.
UCF, dude. If Taco Fall doesn't foul out at the end of that game, I think he easily puts in that.
Yeah, RJ Barrett doesn't get that rebound, and then it's a totally different game.
Yes, they definitely squeaked by for sure. But I mean, pretty much everybody had them making it at least to the finals. So I mean, it was clearly an upset either way. But it's like, as like a Duke fan going into the tournament, like with all the hype around Duke, you have Zion and RJ there, clearly like two of the best freshmen to play in a while. Was it championship or bust, essentially, like as far as like being satisfied with how the season played out, or like do you still think you got a lot out of the Duke season and like it was still a good year even though they ended up losing the Elite Eight?
I think it's so hard to say championship or bust in college basketball, just because it's so hard to win 6 games in a row in the tournament.
Anything happens. Anything can happen. Yeah.
I think that it was a good season overall. I mean, they won the ACC tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Had a good run, and it was wildly entertaining with Zion
so much
and
hype,
RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish. So I don't think it was a complete bust, but I think I would have liked to see them at least make the Final Four.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the hype just would have intensified by just an infinite amount if they ended up making it a little farther. But no, I agree with you. It's definitely tough to say championship or bust when it's March Madness, when there's 64 teams all on an even playing field trying to like compete for a championship essentially. So
yeah, they call it March Madness for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I mean, I'm glad you kind of have that mentality. I mean, I feel like a lot of Duke fans maybe wouldn't be so nice about it, or like so understanding at least, but I mean, I know a couple Duke fans and they were definitely pretty upset for a while, but it's definitely good to kind of have that mindset. You got to enjoy an entire basically just highlight reel of a season with those two guys. So kind of piggybacking off that topic, next thing for those two guys in Zion and RJ and Cam Reddish, who's probably the most talented third option in recent college basketball history. Coming with the draft, I think we'll all agree that Zion's going to go first overall. Where do you think RJ's going, dude? Do you think he's like the clear-cut number 2, or do you think he might go a little later on?
I think he's probably
later.
I think he's probably 3. I think John Morant probably goes second based on what he did in the NCAA tournament and the talent that he has. But I think RJ Barrett has a lot of potential to have a great NBA career. I mean, he's kind of in Zion's shadow just based on the pure raw talent that Zion.
For sure, yeah. Zion's just on a whole nother level, essentially.
Yeah, there's been almost no one like him since LeBron.
No, I would say that's pretty much that's the comparison is LeBron James. Obviously, he didn't play in college, but the biggest NBA prospect since LeBron, and I'd agree with that too, honestly.
I actually played against Zion.
Really?
Yeah, he was 14 and I was 16.
All right, so like we need to hear that story now. So like just like
he
was
when
was it like a tournament type of thing?
AAU in the summer, Myrtle Beach. He played for the South Carolina Kings. Played for Big Shots Elite. And at that point, he wasn't Zion yet. He was still a freak. I actually didn't realize that we had played him until a couple of my teammates were talking about it a couple of years later when he blew up. But yeah, I remember they had some freaks on that team, and one of them was Zion. But we beat them.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. That's all that matters, then, dude. You can say you beat Zion Williams.
Exactly.
There's not many people that'll be able to say that. So do you remember like anything about that game? Like, do you remember like him going off like specifically, or like
he wasn't even the best player.
I was
gonna
say
team.
he was like younger. It sounds like
he
a few
was
years younger than
yeah.
you guys.
I don't remember a lot about that game other than we win and that he was a freak.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. I did not know that until you just said that just now. That's actually insane. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with a lot of the points you were saying. I don't know if you have anything to add. Like, do you agree with what he was saying with like RJ and Zion in the draft?
The situation with Zion and RJ, you said RJ's in his shadow. It seems like a Durant Curry,
KD and LeBron thing. Yeah, for sure.
Or even Steph Curry, like on the Warriors.
Oh yeah, just being behind Steph
behind
too.
Curry and RJ's there behind Zion.
It definitely seems like those two are obviously really good friends, and RJ really doesn't seem to mind. Do you think like versus like when we're talking about KD, he's a little bit more petty it seems like, and really doesn't like that too much. I definitely think RJ will shine on whatever team he goes to. He'll be like that focal point of like the rebuild, assuming like he's going to go to like a Cleveland or like Atlanta or Phoenix, like one of those bottom tier teams that are going to be fighting. Atlanta's good,
with Trae Young, and John Collins.
Trae Young's been going off lately, But they'll still have probably a top pick in the draft, not
Yeah.
like top 3 or anything, but they'll add another they'll add another top piece there too. But I agree with you. I've been on like the John Morant hype train for a while. I think he'll definitely go number 2 to whatever team ends up selecting him at number 2. But I'll say RJ's probably the clear-cut number 3 right behind him. So I'll agree with you there. But we'll switch gears away from Duke here a little bit right now. We have to talk about this Celtics situation here. We know you're a big Boston fan and everything. So
Love the city.
having a lot of Sixers fans in the studio and probably watching at home. What do you think going forward with the Celtics, dude? Are you like confident if they match up with the Sixers? They've been pretty much dominating the Sixers for a while. Do you think the Celtics will be able to make a playoff run once the playoff comes here in a week or two?
I have a complete faith in Brad Stevens. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Brad Stevens.
And I think they will pull it together come playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will switch into a different gear and get things together. And maybe I'm a homer, but I like them coming out of the East.
Yeah. I think that's a little bold. I mean, I've seen a couple people making that same bold statement, so maybe it's not so bold. I hate the Celtics, but I love Brad Stevens. I've loved him coming out of Florida when he was coaching over in college too. So it's pretty crazy to see, but I don't know, dude. Like they've just been so on and off. Like if they gel together like as one like cohesive team and actually like can play as a team, I definitely think they can make a run. But they'll have to go through the Bucks and maybe Toronto too, as it's playing out right now. So that's gonna be like an interesting to see how the seeding plays out and who they'll actually have to face up against. But there's a lot of tough teams in the East right now.
Indiana. Everyone sleeps on Indiana. But
You think? Well, yeah, because that's the 4
when
5 right now.
Oladipo
right?
went down, everybody kind of just ruled them out. But they've been holding their own.
They're still around.
Yeah.
They lost 1 seed to the Sixers, but like they're still a consistent team. Like,
yeah.
Because I mean, right now, assuming nothing drastic happens, it looks like that's going to be the 4-5 matchup. Will be Boston and
it's super interesting. Best matchup in the entire series.
You think so?
First round at least, yeah. It's gonna be like Sixers.
I mean, in the NBA has proven that in the playoffs you need stars to win.
Yeah.
I don't think the Pacers have any stars, which is why
I mean,
people are ruling them out. But we'll see what they end up doing.
I'll say
Oladipo isn't like a superstar, but like he's good, and he gave LeBron James like a 7-game fight. So I think they'll definitely size up against this.
I'll say they're like an even team. Like they don't rely on, especially after he went down, they don't rely on like 1 or 2 people. Like they're a very evened out team. They have a solid bench coming off as well.
Nick Collison's been playing great since Oladipo's been injured. So I think they'll give him like a good run for their money.
I think they'll compete.
Win,
I mean,
Celtics will win.
I'll say as a Sixers fan, I'm definitely scared of the Celtics. I mean, there looks like if Sixers hold the 3 seed, they'll be obviously on opposite ends of the Eastern bracket essentially. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if the Celtics can pull it together and start playing as like one cohesive team, I think they can compete with anybody in the East. So it'll be interesting to see. Brad Stevens, like we said, well coached or very good coach, well coached team. Yeah, once it gets into the playoff time, they can really kick it into another gear. It seems like. So
yeah, I'd like to see the Boston matchup with Philadelphia
in the Eastern Conference Finals,
or at any point in the playoffs. I just feel like there's kind of a rivalry brewing there.
After last year too,
I think it would be wildly entertaining.
Marcus Smart shoving Joel Embiid to the floor, of course.
That'd be crazy. Yeah, I mean all the sports media would just eat that up for sure. So that'd be pretty wild to see. All right, yeah. So the last thing, we know you're a big LeBron fan too. You're kind of explaining that a little bit too. So we kind of roasted the Lakers a little bit earlier in the show talking about that. So I mean, what's your take on it, dude? Like, were you happy with his decision to go to LA when he was kind of deciding teams? And now that the whole first year is pretty much under our belts as far as him being in LA, what's your take on it, dude?
I think he had to go to LA. He's shifting into another phase of his career.
So you don't think it was a basketball decision? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think he's building his legacy
Yeah.
more than he is trying to win championships.
Mm-hmm.
I think he won his championships in Miami and Cleveland, and now he's kind of
satisfied with that.
Kind of declining,
much.
Yeah. I think they wasted this first year.
100%.
I think they kind of had some wiggle room where they knew that this year was kind of going to be some growing pains.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think missing the playoffs is not acceptable for LeBron.
Yeah. I mean, what is 16-year streak or like 12-year streak? I can't think what the number
8
was.
straight finals, I know that.
Yeah, I'll say 8 straight finals. Which I mean, no one really expected them to make it to the finals, but even just like the playoff streak within itself was just insane.
Yeah, I think it's
probably
16.
something we're not going to see again. So
I honestly, I think Lonzo being out for most of the season did hurt them.
Yeah.
I think he does a lot for that team that a lot of people
I'll say a lot of people sleep on Lonzo. I mean, I'm not gonna say he's like he's like fulfilled his potential or like fulfilled his expectations being like the second pick a few years ago, but I think a lot of people sleep on him. I mean, I definitely think he's better than Rondo, assuming that like when both of them are healthy as like a point guard and everything. But some of those other prospects, like Brandon Ingram, I think has essentially been a bust. He really hasn't been playing to what the Lakers expected him to. Yeah, he's had a couple like really like shining moments throughout the season, but other than that, yeah, a lot of those young pieces really haven't panned out.
It was a weird dynamic with the veterans they brought in, and then the young guys and LeBron. It was just a weird dynamic. I think
a lot of new pieces to like come together in just 1 year and try to make it work.
And Luke Walton was definitely put in a tough position.
He's definitely gone,
trying to
right?
manage all that, and I think he's definitely gone.
Definitely gone. I mean, I feel it's like LeBron's team now, and LeBron's gonna get whatever coach he wants. It's clear that him and Luke Walton, not that they necessarily don't get along, but it's clear that LeBron would probably want another coach, and the Lakers after this season will need another coach. There's really no keeping him for another year and hoping it works type of thing. They definitely need to move on from there. So assuming you're going to follow the Lakers here some more now that LeBron's there, who would you want to see as their next head coach? Have you given that like any thought at all, or heard any of the rumors? Or
I have no idea.
No.
David Blatt.
Yeah. That's a bold one for sure. I mean, I've heard them like just a lot of rumors and everything right now. Doc Rivers was in the conversations, but he pretty much like ruled that out right as those rumors.
He had a great year with
so.
the Clippers.
Oh yeah, I'll say he has a great situation with the Clippers right now, especially if they can land a free agent like a Kawhi Leonard maybe in the offseason going there. The Clippers will be a scary team, and yeah, between the two LA teams, the Clippers are looking a lot more as a team, a lot more like put together than the Lakers are right now. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the Lakers can easily turn it around if they get a few pieces here coming up, but anything else you want to add, man? We appreciate you having you on. So
thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
If you guys are at the Ville, just come check the men's basketball team out next season.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll say definitely be in touch with the Ville basketball team if you're a Millersville student checking us out. So again, we appreciate you having you on, guys. And yeah, for everybody watching, we appreciate you tuning into this third episode of the podcast. Again, if you want to let us know anything, feel free to drop a like on the video, drop a comment if you have any suggestions for us or any things you'd like to hear us talk about next week. We also have the website, the blog posts that are going out. We have 3 posts every single week going out for you guys. That's heated-sports.com with the emphasis on the dash. And then we have the Instagram and the Twitter accounts where we're putting out daily content, breaking news content, stuff like that. Those are both at heatedsports_, emphasis on the underscore. So feel free to check those out as well and just, get in touch with us. Let us know what you think about the podcast so far, guys. So, we're going to wrap it up there. So have a good rest of your week, guys. We'll see you next week.